welcome. This is Camille Grant here from Mayfield, and I'm so pleased and honored to have Maria Latushkin here to join us as one of our special guests for our CXO Journey to the AI Future, which is our new podcast series, really learning about how CIOs and IT leaders are leveraging AI to transform their business. So, Maria, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Maria, you are now the GVP and technology lead for Albertsons here in California. Maybe you could just introduce yourself by way of background. You've been there a few years. You've had a very technical background for a long time. Awesome to have a female leader in technology, sometimes a rare breed. So can you tell us a little bit about how you arrived at your role?
Yeah, I actually had quite, you can say, a meandering career, but I like to think about it actually all of the stars aligning for this specific purpose in life. I've been both in companies really large like Walmart and really small Series B companies, most of the time around some sort of a consumer experience, whether those were retailers or companies that offered products to consumers. I also ventured out in healthcare, and now working for Albertsons, I feel like this is all coming into place where there's both retail and it has a healthcare aspect to it through wellness and pharmacy that we have. And it's really trying to create better value and making consumer lives better and creating relationships with consumers through the technology that we create. And it's a really, really exciting time for technology. It's really exciting to be where we are, where whole industries get redefined. And GenAI, our topic of the day, is just one of the proof points about all of the things that are actually changing and really transforming industries.
Yeah, that's a good setup to my primary question, which is, of course, generative AI is all the rage. Everybody's talking about it. But you, as a business leader, you've seen other cycles before, kind of to your reference point. But how do you put priority on this? Is this the highest priority for you, or where does it rank as far as a strategy as you think out about 2024, I suppose, and projects and planning? Where does it rank for you?
I've seen these different innovation hype curves, and like this one feels really different for me. And the reason it feels different for me is it's not just a new technology. It's not something where it feels like, hey, and yet another thing that we would be working on. It has potential to not just do certain things better, faster, but fundamentally transform how we work. And that's why I find it both exciting intellectually, but also transformative from the business perspective. It can really can both improve and amplify the models, like business models that we have right now, and also create new opportunities, new capabilities for us. So it's something that is very high priority. It's, as always, when you have something new, you also want to be careful about how you introduce it into the workplace and how you introduce it into the enterprise. You want to be responsible with it. I joke about GenAI that, like, with great power comes great responsibility. It's a very powerful technology, very powerful capability, but it also has to be governed appropriately. You have to think about the data. You have to think about responsible AI. You have to think about financial aspects of it. So there's a lot to do between the shiny proof of concept and, like, yes, we can do things so quickly, but then how do you get them at scale, and how do you make it part of your enterprise?
Yeah, well, maybe we can unpack that. So maybe without sharing anything confidential about what's going on at Albertsons, what are some of the early learnings? I mean, I hear a lot of CIOs doing experiments internally, but at the same time doing a lot of education. There's both people, process, and a lot of technology. How do you sort of unpack all that as far as early learnings? I mean, what have you learned at this point?
I look at this as there's really, if you want to think about it as a triangle of sorts, there's certain things that everybody's trying to invest in it, and it's really hot right now. And so there's going to be investments that other companies would be making, and any enterprise that uses other products can benefit from. We can all become better and smarter through partnership with these companies and the products that we use. There is the area where you can think about it as your enterprise buddy of sorts. So when you think about all of the or a thought partner, when you think about all of the co-pilot capabilities, I do believe that it will help enterprises to be much more effective. And then there's a third part of the triangle where you think about the solutions that you create as a development organization. So that would be something more unique, more bespoke, something that's a value add for a given company. And all companies would be different. And there are certain things that would be more important to a given company at a given part of their journey. The thing that we find is GenAI is new, it's nascent, and it's already wonderful at certain things, and it's still learning some others. And so I would say kind of the aha moments and key early findings is to build off of what it's strong at, and not looking at it as a magical unicorn that's gonna, if I have something that I really need to do in the company and I haven't been able to do this here, GenAI must be able to solve it. It's gonna solve certain things. It won't yet solve others, and it probably will. It works so fast, like evolves so fast, maybe 6 months down the road it will, right? So thinking about being careful and deliberate, thoughtful about what it's already good at right now, what's coming down quickly down the pike, and what might be further out, and then trying to figure out like the phases in which you engage to be matching to its capabilities. That's one. The other one is thinking through kind of the quick wins and balancing quick wins with really impactful change. There's a lot that has to be any organization that introduces it. It's not just prompt engineering, right? You also have to figure out the technology, you have to figure out architecture, you have to figure out security aspects, you have to figure out data governance, you have to educate your teams. And so you want to both prove the value and also create a space and a use case to do all those things.
Yes.
And you want to make sure that you pick the use cases, the areas that have the highest feasibility. Do you have data to make it happen? Can you really stand it up and get it off the ground? And at the same time, you do also want to start thinking about areas that will give you big impact, something that's meaningful change, and that will probably take longer. So if you pick a couple of examples along those two axes, you'll probably hit it right.
Yeah, in preparation, you and I talked a little bit about your way of measuring impact or metrics. You had sort of a 2x2 thing. And I'm curious, just as you think about planning next year, potentially there's lots of use cases where generative AI could be used. How will you go about deciding where to put attention? I mean, I love the idea of quick wins, but ultimately you said this could be quite transformative. And so how do you balance all of that? You've got limited resources, I presume. So how do you equate where the impact will be most and where to put attention?
Yeah, we try to evaluate it against two things. One is productivity. Is this something that will help us will it amplify what we're doing as an organization? Will it help us to achieve something in an easier and or faster way? So that's one. Those initiatives very often fall in the quick wins situations where, by the nature of the fact that they give you productivity, it's something that's supposed to give you results faster. And then you always want to pick something that's more strategic. And yes, it will take longer, but evaluating it against kind of the long-term impact, whatever an organization would think about, whether that's in the customer-facing realm, it might be something else of a strategic nature.
And so then you now have this opportunity to start building things, I presume. You've got new use cases, but then we've kind of been in an environment for the past decade or so where we've been buying solutions versus building. We've moved data centers out to cloud. We bought SaaS-based solutions. Are you now in a struggle where you're going to have to build things that are unique to your use cases, to your environment? And how do you balance the traditional buy versus build equation in this new sector of AI?
It's interesting. I actually don't look at it as a struggle. In a lot of ways, to me, it's an extension of the same thought process.
Okay.
And there's certain things that might be utility for your given organization. It makes sense to see if somebody else is doing it and doing it well, and maybe that's the whole purpose for being for that given company, right? And so you buy it, and then you wind up being able to reap the results, the benefits pretty quickly. And there are certain things that might be either very much in the realm of your IP, something that may be unique to you, or maybe it just so that the domain knowledge or the rules around it are so complicated based on your business model that it's actually something you're not going to find readily available in the market in a generic solution. So thinking about, it's the same logic that a lot of companies apply to the regular buy versus build. In this case, you just have to acquire more skills. You have to train your team on this, and you have to find ways of being proficient. In some cases, you're also able to extend some of the other models. So maybe you don't build it from scratch, but you're able to but it's also not a SaaS product, right? Where you're able to take a platform and then you extend that platform and make it a little bit more unique, a little bit more fitting to your needs.
Yeah. The other question I was curious about is what are some of the issues or roadblocks or maybe even gaps that you believe need to be solved before you can really fully execute on this? And some of it is both technology, I'm sure, but it's also people and process, educating your team, getting them on board and all of that. So can you sort of put together what are the headwinds you're facing?
I don't look at them as roadblocks in a way of we have to solve all of them before we can make progress. But to me, they are those forces that sometimes play against you, and sometimes you just have to keep them in mind and make progress towards your goal, even, and making sure that you keep good pace at the same time. And there are also some of them, to me, apply to the whole realm of this new discipline. Some of them might be use case by use case based. Yep. So as an example, when I think about the financial aspect, being able to educate people on the FinOps angle of it, it sure. would make a big difference in certain use cases. It will be okay in other use cases. So this is one of those that you have to keep in mind always. Same with data quality and availability. Depending on your use case that you're trying to address, it may be a really big roadblock, or it could be something that actually renders well for your use case. You have the data, you're able to make it happen. That's actually part of the way, like, you want to try to evaluate, like, do I have all the things that right. I need to make my use case successful? And then there are areas that stand true for all of it. It's the evaluation and validation. How do you know that it produces the results that you can stand by? How do you approach it? The whole idea and the whole discipline of data governance, and to me, and general governance, to me, it's one of the ones that you have to get right from the beginning. And you have to understand what your point of view is, how you want to manage it, what you want to do. Then you can turn those levers depending on the situation, higher or lower, but you have to have a point of view and you have to have guardrails. The ethics and social impact, and a lot of it is education, and a lot of it is regulation. But this is the part also that has to be, it's new, it's not very well defined. Everybody's doing it at the same time, but it's something that I can't underscore it enough, that the importance of getting this right. So these two for me are very important. And then The third one that is, it's new. So you have to educate your teams. You have to upskill them in a lot of ways. And it can feel daunting because it's so new. So figuring out ways of doing it in a practical way is probably the most important part, because in some case, again, being so new, it feels that we go through all of these curves where one day people are really excited about it, and then something comes out in the news and they're really scared about it, and then they get ambivalent about it, and they're like, oh, it's a shiny toy, and then a week passes and they see something and say, oh no, it's here to stay, it's important. So there's a lot of excitement, but also different emotional responses that folks have. So making sure that you both educate, create awareness, and train, and figure out how to reach all of the right audiences in a manner that would be important to them. That's also a big and key area, and it has to be started early.
I wonder, just as a final question, so thank you for all this. There's a lot of conversation about responsible AI. Yesterday, the White House released a framework for responsible AI and some structure and guidelines around that. How do you think about it as an IT leader? Do you educate your board? Do you educate individuals? Are you at risk? I mean, how does the whole responsible AI come together in your mind?
I don't think there's one person's job to figure this out. I do believe it's important enough that leaders of different disciplines within a company need to come together and make it their priority. And so depending on the structure of the company, it could be different people, but I do feel that this is one of the ones that has to be done early, and people have to be really thoughtful about it at the high leadership level.
Yeah, great. Well, Maria, thank you so much for being our special guest today. This is Camille Gran here at Mayfield. Maria Latushkin, thank you so much. GVP, head of technology and engineering at Albertsons, famous grocery store chain all around California and the West Coast. Thank you so much for being our special guest. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.